So I will use the Quran to read some verses and explain the verse that was misunderstood by Mr. Bilal and the Salafi people. Is verse 25, verse Surah 20 verse 5. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa, which is Ar-Rahman the merciful, ala al-Arsh istawa, is established over the throne. So this meaning was taken literally to mean that God actually sat on a throne. For someone to sit, he has to be, for someone to rise, he has to be limited, and we know that God is unlimited. For someone to change, for some entity to change or to move or to rise or to sit, it has to be finite. It has to be finite. For anything to be defined, it has to be finite. We study even in mathematics and things like that, and engineering. If you have a boundary condition, you have a solution. If something is finite element method, you can get a solution. You can define it. Allah is not finite, cannot be defined. That's the whole idea of Tawheed. Now, this verse, when Allah says Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa, is established over the throne. When you say Allah is established over the throne, does that necessarily mean He went and sat on the throne? If you're very literalistic and have very narrow-minded understanding of the language has deep meanings, you would only take the closest meaning to your understanding, which is someone sitting on the throne. But how could you attribute something like this to Allah, who has no limit, who is not defined? How can He sit on a throne? And secondly, this verse is obviously talking about God taking power, and it's very logical and very understandable. Now the second verse is in 67:16, Surah 67 verse 16. أأمنتم من في السماء أن يخسف بكم الأرض فإذا هي تمور. Did you secure that him who is in the sky will collapse the earth on you? So this was understood that God is only in the sky. Only in the sky. But to say that God is in the sky is not wrong, because God is everywhere. God is not absent from anywhere. God is everywhere without intermixing. So to say God is absent is idolatry. To say God is parts is like the Trinity, is idolatry. And now this verse, which is saying Allah fis sama, amintum man fis sama, if it's talking about God, did you secure that him who is in the sky does not collapse the earth on you, is obviously not wrong. And even the example that Mr. Bilal Phillips gave about that woman which said God is in the sky is still not wrong. God is in the sky. God is not absent in the sky and is not absent on earth. And when we argue with the Christians the Trinity and say that you cannot say God is everywhere but God is defined or contained only in Jesus, they say, oh, God is not everywhere but His power is everywhere. So now they have divided God into the self and the power, and this is the source of idolatry, because you have divided God into two entities, and God is indivisible. God is sifatuhu ayn dhati. His attributes are Himself, cannot be divided to say God is only above the throne but His power is everywhere. So God is two parts. One part is His power and one part is Him, and therefore that's not my God. That is an idol which is limited. because the God himself is absent here, and his power is absent in the sky or in the throne. This is why it's idolatry. Now another verse, verse 57, surah 57, verse number 4. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. هو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش يعلم ما يلج في الأرض وما يخرج منها وما ينزل من السماء وما يعرج فيها وهو معكم أينما كنتم والله بما تعملون بصير. So it's saying هو الذي, Allah is the one who created the skies and the earth in 6 days, then had established over the throne. He knows what comes into earth and what goes out from it, and what comes down from the sky and what goes up to it, and He is with you wherever you are. And God is seeing what you do. Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. So Allah is ma'akum aynama kuntum. He's with you wherever you are, which is another proof. If God is absent and is not with me wherever I am, then how can this verse say وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ? You're saying that God is only above the throne. So this verse is saying God is with you wherever you are. And I give you more verses. This is another verse which contradicts your claim, is Surah 6, verse number 3. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وهو الله في السماوات وفي الأرض يعلم سركم وجهركم ويعلم ما تكسبون. And it's Him, Allah, in the skies and in earth. He knows your secret and your obvious, and He knows what you achieve. I repeat, He is Allah in the skies and in earth. So this is another verse which is saying there was a verse that says God is in the skies, which is right, it's not wrong. God is not absent in the skies. And another verse that says God is in the skies and in earth. And another verse which is Surah 50, verse number 16. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. We created the human, and we know what bad suggestions his self says to him, and we are closer to him than his jugular vein. So how can God be closer to me and closer to every human than his or her jugular vein? So can I say Allah is not everywhere? So how can be closer to me than my jugular vein? He said we are closer to you. He didn't say our power is closer to you. We are closer to you than your jugular vein. So this means the true Tawheed is that Allah is everywhere